Hello, my name is Jasmine Woodard with NACE, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Navigating the Recruitment to Programs Handoff to Maximize Retention. We encourage you to actively participate in the chat and please post any questions in the Q&A. It is my pleasure to introduce Parker Pell, co-founder of Abode, Megan Sobolowski, TA Programs Manager with Duolingo, and Michaela Drobeck, Program Specialist with the Early Talent Recruiting and Programs at Liberty Mutual Insurance Company. Take it away, Parker.
Thanks, Jasmine. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. People will be trickling in, so if we take our intros a bit slower, it's just to make sure everyone has some time to jump in here. But super excited to, be co-hosting this conversation with Megan and Michaela. Very timely in the year that we're in today as well, with offer season well upon us for, I'm sure, most of those employers on the call today as well. Again, as Jasmine mentioned, feel free to drop questions in the chat. We will have a Q&A at the end of the discussion, as well as we have some audience questions. So really encourage you to participate as much as you're able to throughout the discussion today. But as Jasmine mentioned, a bit about myself, Parker Pell, based in Montgomery, Alabama. And co-founded Abode with two of my college roommates almost 8 years ago. And the thesis was, could we make the early career candidate experience what we wanted it to be when we had our first internship that wasn't the best, and landed us into creating and starting Abode to kind of be the kind of centralized hub for program management and keep warm experiences, really to help companies to manage, streamline, and elevate the experience as soon as someone signs an offer for an internship all the way until they join y'all as a full-time employee. So this is what we live and breathe. This is the only job I've ever known, and very passionate about the early career space. And I'm very lucky to be able to be alongside Megan and Michaela in today's conversation. So you'll be able to get their expertise on navigating this handoff between recruitment and programs as well. Megan, I'll kick it to you if you want to just chat a bit about your role and your background and you are.
Yes. So welcome everyone to today. I work for Duolingo and have for about 4.5 years now. So even before I was with Duolingo, I was working as a recruiter in the staffing space. But since then, I've been with Duolingo, starting as like a TAC coordinator, background in ops thereafter. And now I've been on the university recruiting team for a few years with them, working solely with interns. So I feel like I've gained really great experience from the full scale of recruiting, from scheduling to now managing the internship program. So very excited to kind of talk about what reneges and handoff looks like, since I've been on both sides, know what works. And then also, like Parker said, we are definitely in the thick of recruiting. So hopeful some of my answers today will be able to help you all in your programs, and we can kind of share and learn from one another, just because we are all in the thick of it this fall season. So very excited to be here today.
Thanks, Megan. And Michaela, kick it to you as well for an intro and background on your role and your UR experience.
Thanks, Parker. Yes, definitely very excited to be part of this conversation today with yourself and Megan. As an introduction, my name is Michaela Drobeck, and I'm a senior program specialist for the early talent team at Liberty Mutual. I've been with Liberty for over 5 years now, and I actually interned myself with the company as an undergraduate and also got to take advantage of one of our early talent development programs. So very fitting that the role I'm in now, I get to directly give back and help shape that internship program and our overall early talent recruiting and programs organization. So definitely in my role, a key focus is the internship program, as well as working closely with our different recruiting teams and business partners to create an engaging and well-rounded intern and new hire experience. So very excited to share some tactics and insights in this discussion, and thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. And this is for everyone on the call as well. Like, we want to chat about what you're most interested in, maybe what's top of mind for you as you're thinking about, holy cow, I just gave an offer to someone and they start in 9 months. What should we be sending to them between offer and start date? Ask those questions in the chat, and we'll really make sure that we try to be as tactical as possible in the advice and practicality that we're giving throughout the discussion today as well. I always like to just kind of set the stage and framework with just some data points to kind of highlight, and I'm sure everyone on this call, you're here because you recognize the importance of, navigating the recruiting to programs kind of experience for your incoming hires in the early career, whether they're early ID, whether they're intern, new grad, rotational, you name it. And Abode just released a really holistic white paper. We call it our anti-renege playbook. It takes into account data from all of our partners' hires in terms of what they were most interested in, what drove them to be the most engaged, least engaged, content that they were looking for, content they wish they got, basically boiling down all of the data that we're collecting to kind of give a blueprint of success and recommendations and thought starters for how teams can bolster up their kind of keep warm experience for their early career programs here. I highlighted kind of 6 data points here on the screen. I'll just kind of talk to a couple of them just so I'm not reading off the slide here that I found most interesting. The first one is only 3% of students felt companies over communicated with them. For me, what that tells me is there's a lot of opportunity for more communication to be going out to your hires after they've signed an offer in structured communication in a way that feels personalized to them. It's not just sending them your company blog update. I think it's, what can we be sending to them that's pertinent to the location they're relocating to, maybe to the role, maybe to the alumni base at your company from the school that they got recruited at. But students want a lot of communication. Gen Z inherently is looking for, I would say, a heightened level of communication than past generations. So if you feel like you're over communicating with your hires, I would be hard pressed to say you probably aren't, and they might even want more. The second one was this idea of them wanting a kind of pre-day one mentor. I think our opinion on the boat is one of the most effective ways to drive kind of mentorship before day one for an intern is connecting them with almost a like onboarding buddy, for example, someone that was a converted intern or an alumni of the intern program that's early in their career, has a recent experience to what they are about to be going through, and what that does not only for engagement, but also for them being able to have a buddy that is early in their career at your company, to give them kind of the insight as to what worked for them, what didn't, and what they wish they knew to get them on the path that they are today. And then lastly, is their just willingness to, I would say, renege or rescind on an offer. 41% is a pretty big number for those that said, hey, I'd be willing to renege if a better offer came around, even if I had signed one offer. And I think that ultimately for us stresses all the more importance of teams trying to think analytically when it comes to understanding how engaged our hires are, and are they going to show up on the first day, or is it going to be 2 weeks before the program and they potentially back out, right? So just a couple data points. Everyone that's joined the call, I'll be dropping in the chat at the end the link to be able to download Abode's anti-renege playbook as well. If you're interested, there's a lot more data that I could have put on here that's in that, with some super awesome tactics and strategies that we've seen work as well. So it's a lot of talking from me, but I just want to kind of first kick it off and open it up to Megan and Michaela. Set the stage, right? Like, why do your companies, invest in and think strategically about this kind of handoff between when the recruiting process is ending and when that kind of program experience starts after someone signs an offer? Why is that so critical for y'all in your retention strategies for your campus programs today?
Yeah, I can go first with this one. I think in the handoff piece from recruiters to program, that initially builds that excitement of, hey, we just accepted an offer, and now it's like we want to keep that excitement going with the experience of joining our company, which we know is a long time away. If they're accepting right now in October, they're usually starting in May and June. So one keeps the excitement going, and then it also sets expectations from the time the offer is accepted and then until they join. So that's a lot of runtime. We want it to be smooth. We want to have clear expectations. As you mentioned, Gen Z definitely wants a lot of communication. So how can we give that to them up front and let them know like, hey, we have future engagement points with you from the time now until the summer. So you will be hearing from us. We will have events. We will have different things. So it just kind of gets them looking forward to that big gap in between when they start. But also knowing like, hey, this company is really invested in me and they want to make sure that I'm there for the summer, I can enjoy the summer, and better be able to help me from this 9 months until I can start.
Michaela, how do you think that Gen Z's expectations have kind of shifted the way that, Liberty Mutual Insurance and the team is thinking about your post-offer engagement strategy? Or maybe what specifically about their expectations are y'all thinking about?
Yeah, and I think thanks so much for just starting off with these data points as well. I think Gen Z in particular is really valuing those frequent, transparent, and authentic connections with their employer. They are often seeking tangible resources, especially like Megan just mentioned that long lead time. They're like, what can I do now? How can I be preparing for day one? We love all the eagerness and the anticipation leading up to that start date. And we want to be providing that as the employer. So that's totally impacting their perception of the company and impacting their excitement levels around surrounding joining the company. And I also think specifically that Gen Z audience, the impact of social media and really tailoring the company's distribution methods or platforms that they're leveraging to share information and communicate does tailor it to their audience, as Gen Z is so tech savvy and growing up with that online social presence. So they've definitely been both seeking the kind of the medium that you're presenting your information, as well as the frequency around it to keep that excitement high and hopefully leading to your incoming hires less likely to continue their search for potentially an alternative employer.
I totally agree with you. I love that you highlighted the medium of which that the experience is being delivered is so key, right? Because I don't know, I'm the oldest Gen Z. I've got two younger brothers, and neither of them live in their email, and it's just not how they, that's not how they grew up, right? They grew up on their phone, right, and texting. So we'll get more into that, but that medium is key. I want to kick it to the audience. We do have an audience question. It's not a poll, but feel free to drop what you think is the correct answer in the chat. Which of these is not one of the most important factors when students consider accepting an offer? This is from a survey that we ran for our anti-renege playbook. I find the role energizing and exciting. I can see myself working at the company long term. Compensation matches my expectations, or the role is somewhere that I want to live. Again, which of these is not one of the most important factors? We're getting a whole lot of B's here. B, 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 B. A few D's. A whole bunch of B's. C. So which of these is not one of the most important factors when students consider accepting an offer? From the survey that we ran, they said D, the role is somewhere that I want to live, which I thought was very interesting. In my my analysis of this data point that we got in this survey, was that there is maybe an expectation of some sort of hybrid work environment where it's less a matter of the role of somewhere they want to live and more they want the type of like working style to more align to their preferences. So very interesting. Good job, Sean. You did nail it. Awesome. Well, Megan and Michaela, I want to just kind of dive a bit deeper into kind of how each of your organizations are approaching this handoff. And Megan, kicking it to you first, at Duolingo, what processes do you all have to ensure that the recruiting team and the program team are aligned so that the moment an offer is signed, there's a smooth transition?
Yeah, so our university program team, we have 6 people total, including myself. So I know sometimes that can be a little bit easier if the team is much smaller to kind of have full visibility. But we have an internal tracker that's tied directly to our LMS system, Greenhouse. So as soon as a candidate is marked and hired in Greenhouse, it will then kind of auto-populate on that tracker that we all have visibility into. So that is one way that it's easy for our team, recruiters across the board can see who was hired. But also our team is very integrated in Slack. So our recruiters do get really excited when candidates accept an offer. So every time a candidate accepts, the recruiter normally will just send a Slack update to us. They'll tell us like candidate's first and last name and say, hey, they just accepted to be an SE intern with us next year. So we all kind of individually celebrate every single candidate that decides to accept an offer with us. So that's also like another way of visibility. Like our team knows, okay, another person's hired. So from there, with that tracker, we know when we're sending an email out to that candidate, whether it's on a rolling basis every single week, we're sending it out to who accepted, or kind of just in that moment to kind of introduce ourselves. Recruiters spend so much time building like that strong relationship with candidates throughout the interview process, the offer stage. So for the program side, really want to make sure that we're also starting to create that strong relationship building because they'll be working with us from now until we get them here for the summertime. So we kind of just have a few different channels where we're celebrating the wins, we see who's accepted, and then that kind of triggers our timeline of they accepted. We want to send them this intro email to keep that excitement going, and be a support person for them throughout this time before they onboard.
I love that. Michaela, at Liberty Mutual, what is kind of y'all's workflow in that handoff, look like? And, you know, at Liberty Mutual, larger team, who owns what and when?
Yes, definitely. And really appreciate hearing how Megan's team structured. We work on a little bit of a larger scale here at Liberty. Our recruiting team is about 20 folks, and it is broken into 2 different recruiting arms and then a programming function as well. So it is very much a constant partnership between the recruiters who are that primary point of contact for the candidates during the interview process, and then actually remain so from that point of offer through onboarding, and our programmatic functions who are more operating on the overarching program level scale. So we're both designing and directly implementing different initiatives, but also sharing resources and templates and things to leverage for our recruiters to then distribute and implement as well themselves. And then we definitely have that piece of the puzzle that as the start date's approaching, we have our exact like supervisor or manager alignment take place. And then at that point, we have our recruiters do that more personalized handoff of the direct point of contact at the company. But it's definitely a constant communication, making sure everyone is on the same page. And we use different methods for that. We definitely prioritize our monthly team meetings where we're pulling up on progress on recruiting and sharing any big updates or next steps. And then we do have our smaller like team-wide huddles where we're really getting into the details of what's in motion that week and how we're all working together towards the same goal. So lots of moving pieces, but communication is key to make sure we're all working seamlessly.
Nice. And Megan, when that kind of automated info goes into y'all's tracker, is there a process of kind of y'all ensuring that the information about the specific kind of new hires, preferences, interests, things of that nature that might not just be tied to the job rec are captured at all, or do y'all take that into account in terms of what they might personally be looking for at all?
Yeah, so our recruiters play a big piece in that during the interview process and at the offer stage. So a lot of our roles for internships, predominantly the bulk of our internship program is at our headquarters here in Pittsburgh, but we do have openings in our New York City office. So recruiters are kind of filling that throughout the entire process of, yes, this role is for Pittsburgh. We do have New York, but limited spaces. So they are honing in on what the interns like very top choices in terms of office location. Also what their career goals are. So for software engineering in particular, something we do post offer acceptance is we do a team match process Across all our functions, but with SE specifically, since we hire a great number of them, since we are a tech company, we send out an interest form from our program side of just letting them know, hey, this is a detailed interest form we want you to be able to complete. Obviously, a spot isn't guaranteed on that team, but it's really taking into account, hey, what teams would they rank and where? What is like the biggest top of mind for them when they're joining us for an internship? Like, what skills do they want to gain? What projects? What type of things do they want to work on? And then on the back end, our team's able to kind of take a look of that, place them on a team obviously that meets like what our company needs for in terms of interns being on a team, but also we want to make sure that we're also leaning into their interests. We don't want them to come here and not be excited to work on the project they're assigned to. So we definitely have a curated process where on a form we're kind of documenting what's most important for them and what team can they be on that is going to be fulfilling to them, but also be a great match for us as well.
Yeah. When in doubt, ask. That's what I like to say, right? And it sounds so simple, but if you want to know, ask. And I think that a simple, survey of about interests, whether it's relating to the team or just, what they're looking for, is something super simple that, a company right now could do if you're starting to think about how could I, elevate my post offer experience. Like shoot a note to the class of hires that you're just bringing in and be like, hey, if you had choices of, events, PDF resources, a community, how would you rank and priority those things? And that can kind of lead you in the direction of what your specific hiring class for 2026 right now is, maybe leaning towards in terms of a preference. If you want to make a quick, immediate, impact in 30 days. And that was going to be a broader question is any, strategy or like tactical piece of advice that you'd give to a company on the call that maybe they, are getting offers right now. They want to make, a change to how they're thinking about their kind of post-offer engagement strategy. One, easy thing that they could do that you think would make a big impact for them, to either of you.
Yeah, I can step in here. So I think one key step is definitely outlining those roles and responsibilities and looking at your team and seeing where you want different folks plugging in for different aspects of that next stage after the offer process leading up to the start date, and determining what will work best for your team for managing the candidates and what your communication strategy will be. And then from there, I love a good project plan. So really mapping out that timeline and plan of what point are we at right now? If it's today, October 17th, leading up to that start date in May or June, and then really plugging in what do we want to be either collecting information, sharing information, who should it be coming from, what different distribution channels do we have at our disposal, and from there really mapping out like your communications calendar you can think of. So I think that would be two tips I would give.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thanks y'all for that. And I saw we got a question in the chat. We're going to hold questions till the end just so we can roll through all of this. But, when your team is all structured and set up to, navigate this, really the goal is how can we ensure that that kind of new hire experience and it seems seamless. They just maybe went through the first job interview ever. Now they have this, adrenaline high of accepting that first job. They want to keep that, momentum moving. I want to talk a bit about kind of how y'all think about keeping this momentum post-offer acceptance, because I think that's such an important factor when teams think about mitigating potential reneges or rescinded offer risk. Megan, how does Duolingo approach, making sure that baton isn't dropped in that regard? And you mentioned your tracker that is automated briefly, but anything else you want to highlight?
Yeah, so to Michaela's point too, like creating a project plan and timeline of communications is also key. So as soon as we know someone's accepted that offer, we do really rely on our recruiters while they're extending the offer to let that candidate know, hey, if you do accept, you would then be introduced to like our programs team, program like kind of teeing us up as like a great partner, just saying our programs team is great. They'll be able to help you with this, this, and this, like your travel, upcoming events that we're having before you start. So that recruiter already having that strong relationship is kind of teeing up us as another great partner to work with. So as soon as we're able to introduce ourselves, it kind of gives them that immediate connection of, hey, we know you're kind of done working with your recruiter for now, but we are here to help with travel, events, onboarding process. So that is kind of very key in creating that seamless experience. And then also letting them know when they can expect to hear from us between now and May of next month, you're going to get maybe company updates from us. The following month, we're hosting a virtual event. Or we're adding you to a forum with other members in your cohort so you can start connecting. So that gives them other kind of milestones to look forward to and know that they're going to still have engagement with us. And it's not something that we go cold on. So I think just setting expectations and sending that first introduction email within a week of them signing is just a key piece to making sure that they always have someone to go to if they have questions.
I really appreciate that because I think that what, we see for Abode and our partners, what students want more than anything is just clarity on the future experience, right? It's not like you have to deliver something immediately and give them everything at once, but more so they know when to expect, certain aspects of the pre-boarding process or certain virtual events that are going to be upcoming, or here's when you're going to, figure out who your manager is. Just like simple things, but just even having the headers of those milestones after they sign an offer of like, here's going to be your journey over the next 8 months before you start with us. Like, we haven't forgot about you. If you haven't heard from us in a few days, it's okay, right? But here's when to expect those things as well. Michaela, for Liberty's, class from, it's a pretty enterprise size wise. How are y'all ensuring that there's personalization that is still scalable for the team of 20 to reach all of these interns and new grads?
Yeah, great question. So, yeah, enterprise wide, we are definitely bringing in, well, our goal is around 400 interns, 300 entry level positions. So, having this overall team manage around 700 candidates definitely has its challenges, and we've navigated different ways to keep that. Keep those touch points personalized. And one reason our programs team is structured as it is they do get to handle that communication and logistics at that broader level. And we do value the importance of having those recruiters further aligned functional group. There's often 9 or 10 different business groups, whether it's technology or analytics or claims or underwriting, really having that one point of contact that they've had FaceTime with during the interview process and have started to build that relationship and know that they can go to that person. Obviously now working with your team in Abode, and we're really excited to leverage that platform leading into this fall because it will offer both our recruiters and our program managers more visibility. We have so many data points and analytics internally collecting all of our candidate data, but we also want to see what we can gain from Abode, just having things at how it's structured at the program level, at that subgroup cohort level, and really helping us both personalize communications and tailor them for different specific functional groups, as well as sharing the general company information that we know is so important as well.
Do either of y'all see, common friction points in the past for incoming hires that, you've learned and tried to like proactively mitigate potentially? Or do you mind mentioning maybe one or two if you can think of any kind of friction points maybe that you think of and how y'all have addressed them?
I think obviously it being a very long lead time from the time they sign an offer with us, like this month, October, and them starting in May or June, there's always that case that they've accepted the offer, but there's still a lot of other companies hiring right now between now and the end of the year. So yes, they've accepted. That's a win for us, but every person wants the best opportunity for themselves, the highest pay. I know to your one poll point, it was like where they want to live. But it's also like, is there another opportunity elsewhere? Is there an opportunity that's 100% remote where they don't have to go into an office and that's important to them? So I think our recruiters and our team trying to build those strong relationships with candidates and organizing those touch points where we can kind of stay engaged with them. We've had a lot of candidates that are comfortable letting us know after they've accepted, like, they'll be forefront and be like, I actually got this opportunity with another company. And they'll let us know that they're either reneging or other people where their cases might change. So I think having that really strong relationship where candidates can let you know that in advance, but definitely being able to kind of, again, reach out to them sooner and kind of stay engaged where you're not going cold for too long can also help in reducing candidates from reneging, just because there is so many other opportunities out there at the same time that we're all hiring.
Yeah, 100%. Do either of y'all have like a creative or fun, you know, resource or touch point in your keep warm strategy that you've gotten a lot of great feedback on that you could, share your secrets to the group of something that they maybe could think about doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Michaela. You can take this one.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm sure everyone has seen these on LinkedIn, but we really love our branded "I've accepted your offer" kind of promotional images that the incoming hire can use and post and kind of celebrate that offer acceptance. And we have seen that it's not like an exact science, but it is common that the folks that are putting it out publicly on their LinkedIn may be less likely to renege later because they're making that commitment and sharing it with their social network. So definitely, if that's something that's not in your company's toolkit, would encourage working with your brand team or internally to create some sort of fun image that can be shared on those social platforms, because the incoming intern or hire definitely is excited to kind of promote that with their professional network, and it also helps with brand awareness.
I love that. My colleague George says a high tide raises all ships, and I definitely think there's something to incorporating more call and response engagement touch points is a way to be, security for, our partners more so than it is actual security for the candidates, maybe not reneging. But if there is a call and response action or touch point that gives them something, but also in return can show you some sort of psychological inclination of adhering to an offer, like that makes everyone feel a bit better and, lower their shoulders a bit throughout this process. And Ben, really quickly to your question, as we're talking about meaningfully connecting interns with their cohort, something that we've seen a lot of our partners start to do is when they connect all of their New York City interns together in a group in Abode, they will actually use the survey that they sent at the beginning as soon as they sign an offer around interests, goals, hobbies, and almost create like a scavenger hunt for the cohort to meet one another and ask them specific questions that then, they can put someone's name to a hobby or sort of thing. Kind of gamifies introducing and meeting folks in a way that, is more aligned to, hey, we both, like to watch football, like Megan and I were watching football last night, So that's just one creative way to, don't just throw everyone in the LinkedIn group and, cross your fingers, right? You could use the survey you sent to collect interests as almost like a way to kind of gamify your cohort making connections and meeting one another. So one little fun way that we've seen that I think could be super easy to implement as well, like in a very short, quick win format. For that. We do have one more question that I want to run by. Again, use the chat to drop your answers in this question. What percentage of students said they wouldn't renege on an offer if they felt in touch with their employer and a part of the team before day one? Again, what percentage of students said they would not renege if they felt in touch with their employer and a part of the team before day one? And this is coming from that anti-renege playbook that I mentioned. I'll drop in the chat here shortly when we open up Q&A for everyone. A lot of B's coming in at 77%, D at 62. Again, a lot of B's. B, B, B. Awesome. So from the survey, the answer actually, I was shocked, was C. So I think, we like to interpret this as, how can your kind of keep warm strategy almost be an extension of the program experience, right? So how can we make, interns who have signed offers early ID participants who maybe are in a 3-day, summit program? How can we, make them feel a part of the team as soon as they sign that offer, in whatever aspect that is, right? Could we have managers have recorded a 10-second welcome video? Could there be, a day in the life video for a software engineer in New York at Duolingo video that goes out that your brand team has? Ways to, make them feel as if maybe as soon as they sign an offer, they have something that they can do or engage with or learn to just give them a head start in kind of productivity when the program actually begins as well. And I want to keep an eye on the clock here and just dive into both of y'all and how you think about, retention tactics that start before day one. Megan, are there any signals that, your team is watching for that tells you a candidate might be at risk, or that, gives you more confidence that, someone who signed an offer is showing up?
Yeah, so overall, it's just kind of low engagement from the start that we track from the time they sign their offer until we're leading into the spring, approaching start dates. We have a checklist of tasks we want them to complete with pre-onboarding, or the interest surveys we want them to fill out. So it's really checking, did they complete any tasks today? Did they submit their interest form? When we send emails out, we have a platform that lets us know the engagement rate, like did they even open the email? So we're kind of easily able to see, okay, this candidate has completed one thing out of 6 that we need done. So let's just do a casual check-in, whether it's coming from our programs team asking, hey, is there anything that you need help or clarification on? I know we have a few tasks we need completed. Do you want to hop on a call? Or if it's even having the recruiter check in, since they did build a really strong relationship during the interview process and the offer stage, just letting them either give them a call or shoot them an email, seeing how everything's going, just trying to get ahead of it as soon as we can. Sometimes it's just candidates are very busy because they're still in school, they're doing exams, they're either doing like a semester abroad. So sometimes it's always not worst case scenario in that sense, but I definitely think keeping an eye on all those tasks if they're completing, and then yourself, if you're the programs person or the recruiter, just trying to do a casual check-in to see what's going on, is the biggest top of mind.
Michaela, to that data point that we just looked at, how is your team kind of approaching and sharing information that, makes a new hire feel as if like they are at the company, and give them a sense of belonging, like from the day they sign their offer?
Yeah, great question. So we've always had a very robust strategy of we want to be providing information and connection points pre-start. So we are, like you said, both promoting our company culture and giving them a taste of that and creating that sense of belonging. I would say historically, we've shared newsletters that have had company news. We like to use catchy lines like learning about life at Liberty or things like that, that would really start to educate them on what they can expect working here will be like. We have had the LinkedIn group that you mentioned as well as a place for them to organically connect and start building those professional connections online, as well as offering an internally created portal and website that's styled as like a directory that has company resources and profiles that that their peers can view. And so we're definitely very excited. We're going to be shifting all of those different methods of creating that engagement and company culture presence into the Abode system. And we really are excited for it to be that one stop for all the different aspects of communication and information that we want to be sharing. And then since those human touch points are so important to this Gen Z audience, we definitely think of how we can have events leading up to start dates as well. Of course, being optional, as we know, most incoming hires may be in the academic year and it might not be possible to attend, but we do want to offer those opportunities. And these have taken different styles, whether it was an open house at a local office or a virtual panel event to hear from current employees and set the stage of what to expect. So we do also want to have those face-to-face, whether actually physically on site or in a virtual setting, so that they feel like they're really getting to know folks at the company and ready for that day one.
Totally. Megan, do y'all have a sense of Duolingo of maybe some of the most impactful engagement activities as it relates to retention that y'all have done, or a thesis on that at least?
Yeah, so we have a few different events. To Michaela's point too, it's like hard being in the semester with scheduling conflicts. Like maybe not every single candidate will be able to attend it. So we host virtual events and IRL events for candidates too. So typically in January, we do a New Year kickoff where our programs team host a virtual event where we're giving them all a sneak peek of the exciting activities and events we have planned for the summer. I think this past year and last year, we plan approximately 42 to 45 social events throughout the entire summer that interns will get to engage in. We do the PNC Park Pirates game. Pirates are not the best team, but we definitely have a beautiful stadium, or just different like theater events or activities in the city to kind of get them excited to be here in Pittsburgh or even in New York City for the summer. But we also host IRL events. So I definitely encourage if your company has the capacity to bring your interns or future candidates in before they start. So we have one coming up this November. We call it Duo Discovery Days. Majority of our candidates aren't from Pittsburgh or haven't been from Pittsburgh. So we are bringing a large group of our incoming software engineering interns into the office for a 2-day event. The day one is they will get to connect with like our senior VP of engineering, where they'll just host a welcome session. They'll get to have lunch with current full-time employees. We'll host the team match session, which is like just the overview of here's all the teams we have at Duolingo. Here's the opportunity of projects you will get to potentially work on once you fill out your survey of area interest. And then we just have like a dinner mixer with all our visiting candidates. A lot of people from the SE function attend, and it's just a nice casual way for them to one, see the office, start to envision themselves working there in the summer, as well as get to know other incoming interns. I feel like that is a big piece. They start making friends, they start organizing on their own, like who they might want to room with for the summer. So I think that really just gets them engaged and excited about where they'll get to be for the summer. So definitely something I would recommend. And obviously, if you can do virtual, what little teasers or different things can you do virtually for candidates to be able to attend? But most of all, get them excited to kind of be with you for the 3 months out of the year.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to skip our last audience question just in the essence of time. But from our survey, we asked students, how often they want to be communicated with. And they said 1 time per week, which tied kind of directly to the data point at the top of, they don't feel over communicated with. If you feel like you're over communicating with them, you probably could send them another note. So just ironic that, they would want that. But let's end it just quickly with any sort of, mistakes that either of y'all would recommend, employers on the call today avoid, or, things that y'all tried to do as it relates to your engagement strategy that, maybe didn't work as well as you thought it would, that you want to call out, or any, quick fixes that you think people think, oh, this would be great, but, didn't work.
I think one thing to kind of consider, and I know Michaela and I both made points on it, is loving a project plan. Kind of planning before your season starts or before interns start signing offers, just having a plan in place of either a communication timeline, events timeline. And if you're noticing quickly, like, okay, this isn't working, we're not getting high engagement, kind of already planning what your pivot might be. I know if you're just planning, let's just send one monthly email or newsletter to candidates a month, and then you notice like engagement isn't high, it's like, okay, let's quickly pivot. What could we be able to do either every other week or every week, just to kind of being able to kind of pivot quickly and have a plan in place versus going throughout the whole season trying something else and realizing it's not working. So kind of just having backup plans already ready to go of what you can kind of try versus go with the flow and acting in the moment. Just being prepared to kind of have other options to quickly pivot to.
Michaela, anything to add before we open it up to the floor?
Yes, I think that those are all great call outs, Megan. And I do think, just to kind of tag on to your last point there, I think there are some very light lifts that you can do, whether it is a monthly newsletter or just sharing content that may already exist. But I think at that point, it could just be increased email spam or increased noise like in their inbox. So it doesn't necessarily build that meaningful connection. So really thinking about how can you personalize and tailor to your audience, really catch their attention, keep them enticed. And I think that engagement piece is so key. So if there is some sort of action step they can take, whether it's fun or actually collecting information that you are requiring, whatever it may be. I think that then puts the responsibility on the incoming hire to stay engaged, and it's not just passive communication that might go unread. So I think that would be something that we've had learnings on in the past.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree with you. How can we integrate the experience in kind of a one-stop shop to, meet how they always consume information in one place in their day-to-day and translate that to their candidate and employee experience with your company as well. Well, I want to open up the floor for any questions from the group. I know we had a couple come through a bit early on as well. And you can use the Q&A also. Sorry, I'm rolling through the chat here. All right, Megan and Michaela, I'm going to just read this one. This is from Danielle. Any specific recommendations you can give to a team that keeps the post-acceptance engagement within the HR/recruiting team? Oh, I think if I'm reading that correctly, it's maybe that, post-offer engagement isn't handed off to like a programs group. It's still sitting under the recruiting team's purview. Any thoughts or recommendations you can give?
I think if they can resource share, that would definitely help everyone out. So if there is capacity for, and like to your point, if there's not necessarily like a programmatic arm that's designing and distributing action steps or initiatives that recruiters can then leverage, if folks do have capacity to creatively brainstorm ways that they're going to keep in touch with their incoming hires and then share from there so the whole team can take advantage of that. I think it is really nice that they have that individual point of contact in a recruiter. So that relationship should definitely be emphasized and goes a long way with keeping things personalized. But I think, yeah, definitely helping one another out would hopefully be a solution if there's not a team dedicated to that in the first place.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we hear as well is those teams that maybe don't have the luxury of having like specifically a programs function really do have to rely a lot more on hiring managers who have opened the rec for this role as well, and trying to be a bit more forthcoming of like, hey, we are going to need your support. That you're not just hiring this incoming intern, right? We want you to be a part of their experience. Here's what you can get out of that from a development perspective, but here's also what it's going to do for that new hire experience as well. So I think there's also an angle there as it relates, Michaela, to like asking for more resources, like what you can do as well to stress test that with hiring managers a bit more also. Danielle said, thank you. Cool. I guess Megan or Michaela, anything that y'all would add to Ben's question around how you're meaningfully connecting interns with their cohort ahead of the start date?
Yeah, I can take that one. I think there's definitely a ton of options. One thing we do that we organize is we'll do virtual events. So we've done it on just a standard Zoom platform, if your company uses Zoom, where we did like intern trivia night. And someone from programs or the recruitment team will just come up with trivia questions, and we'll break all the interns out into breakout rooms. So they're kind of getting to team build, work together, and then bring them back in and answer the trivia questions as just something to start getting to know people, seeing their names, connecting that way. But then there's also so many other options you can do that aren't led by your team, if you're kind of few and far between, there is Discord, which is just like a platform you can import all your interns to. They can start connecting with one another, just saying, hey, where is everyone living this summer? Or just kind of building relationships that way. There's even other free options, like GroupMe is a free app that you can just put all people into a conversation together, let them kind of self-lead, ask questions. You can even be an admin and go in and drop little topics to kind of get people start engaging and it's excited for the summer. This summer, we also used the Abode platform, which was the forum where candidates can kind of either be in a whole group together or message each other one-on-one. Like I said, we have the roommate capability for the summer. So if interns are, hey, I don't want to live by myself, like who's interested in rooming, and they can kind of start talking about that, talking about just interests or activities that we have going on. So there's a lot of things that your team might not even have to self-lead, and it's just you're starting the GroupMe or the Discord, and they can kind of engage from now until they start, or even just those virtual events, I think are a huge help and a fun way to kind of get to know one another.
Julie, I had a good question. What has been the rate of engagement or participation for those pre-internship events? I think this is a question companies all ask a lot, right? Like what should I be expecting or looking for? What do y'all, either of you, have seen?
I would say we definitely see varied engagement depending on the style of event. I think those earlier, like winter, we do try to, similar to Megan, have kind of like a kickoff beginning of the year, more lighthearted, just networking focused event. And I would say that maybe tends a little bit lower on the engagement, but then we also host right before the internship starts, what we call like our Liberty Internship 101, like a prep call right before, like 2 weeks out. And we definitely see much higher engagement at that point. So I think that can be attributed to obviously the timing. But I think it's really nice to offer a big lead up and options for people to attend events. And it just depends on obviously the ROI and what you're putting into event. If it is on site, obviously it probably would be much more important to make sure your engagement's up there with the expense portion of it. But those virtual ones, which are a lighter lift, we definitely see the benefit of hosting them, even if we do see potentially a lower engagement at different points in the year.
Megan, anything to add there? Or
Yeah, I think it kind of, to Michaela's point, it just varies on the type of event. Obviously, if it's in person, everyone's schedule is very different based on midterms, external activities they're doing with their university. And then if the activity itself, maybe it's not the social activity of trivia, but it's the function specific, like come hear about what teams we have for you as a software engineer. Like that is something we see definitely higher engagement on because it's pertaining to exactly what they're working on for the summer and they're very excited about that. Whereas some virtual social activities might be a lower engagement based on availability, or maybe trivia is not their thing. So we kind of take that with a grain of salt of each event we're hosting. We're not going to see 100% because everyone's schedule and timeline is a little bit different. But also we constantly take surveys throughout of before their internship. What do you want to see, or what is most important to you pre-onboarding? And then when they're here for the summer, we have, how did your onboarding go? What could we do better? Middle of the internship, what would you change so far about your experience? And then obviously an offboarding one too is there any advice you can give to us for future cohorts? What did you like the most? What did you like the least? So we're constantly kind of surveying. Again, it's optional. They're not required to give us this much feedback, but we are very feedback driven. So at any point, like how can we keep getting any type of insight from our candidates to kind of improve and scale what we're doing and kind of do away with maybe what's not working?
Allie asks, any ideas on engagement for those of us who don't have large cohorts in one location? They typically hire across all their offices. Some may have one intern, others might have 25.
We definitely experience this at Liberty. We have offices that may only have 1 or 2 interns, and then we have our Boston headquarters that has 120 interns. So I would say in those small office locations, that is where we prioritize making sure that the supervisor or direct manager that that intern is going to be working with is also based in that location. So if we're not having someone from the HR or talent branch leading that first day orientation, for example, they do have that on-site manager who is greeting them in the lobby and getting them set up at the desk and just having that tailored experience. And then we do kind of make a decision on these are our 5 largest intern offices, and this is where we are going to have programming at more of a larger scale, like in Boston, for example, where we're going to have a group of over 100, or in other locations with those large double-digit groups of interns. So I think that's how we balance it. Is we definitely rely on the on-site manager, and of course supporting them with resources and preparation on how they can provide that engaging hands-on experience as their aligned leader.
Only thing I'll add is we work with a lot of accounting firms who also have tons of offices in locations, Allie, and a few interns here or there. And one of the biggest things that they've seen to drive engagement was that idea around like a scavenger hunt type, activity where you're prompted to reach out and, network with the entire class as a whole, even if they're not in your location. Because I think what we've seen is if they can feel a part of the cohort, even if it's across the whole board and not just at their location, like that will still lead to, better engagement and retention on the back end for them as well. So not just providing New York with 100 interns or 25 interns like a group. It's, here's everyone, and allow them to kind of, meet and struggle as they need to. Molly Adams asked, they struggle to get survey response rates above 60%. Megan, Michaela, do you see better survey response rates at your companies? So how do you communicate or package the feedback ask to achieve that?
Yeah, we definitely see this as well. We never see 100% like feedback responses, even if we keep it anonymous. But one thing that we do as well with this is we rely on the host managers too. So we send them feedback surveys as well on their experience being a host manager for the summer. But then we also ask them, was there anything your intern might have shared with you that they would have liked to see better? So if we're not getting it on the surveys that we're sending out throughout the summer, it's like, have you heard anything at all from your intern on their experience, or anything that they would suggest could have been better? So we're kind of getting that feedback on the back end from managers too, if they haven't taken the step themselves to submit the intern feedback survey. I think this is kind of a problem across the board. Like if it's optional, even if it's anonymous too, like you're not going to get as many responses as you'd like. And obviously you can't like incentivize them either. But in the past, like if we've had like a little swag item, it's like, hey, fill out this survey and receive like a link for like company swag, even if it is super small. I think that also goes a long way if you can. Not that it's bribery, but at the same time, you're like, we really want this feedback. Like, how can we get you excited to share it with us? But I definitely think keeping it anonymous too has helped with us in the past with feedback. So you're not seeing like directly who it's tied to. But that's kind of what we've seen at Duolingo too.
Cool. We have time for one more question. Megan, this is directed to you. Sean asked how y'all pay for the intern host city visits. At his company, our team funds intern wages and relocation. Does Duolingo intern team pay for this Duo, university, or is it handled by the host manager's team?
So for our university and programs team, we do have a budget dedicated to an in-person event every single year, just because we've seen it be a very big ROI. Initially, we only had virtual events, but we don't really do campus traveling anymore as our recruitment team for the university, because we're just so small. Our recruiters can't really make it to that many universities that we would ideally be recruiting from. So we kind of repurposed that budget where recruiters aren't boots on the ground at universities anymore. And we're hosting far more virtual events and then leveraging whatever budget we would have to on-campus events to be able to bring our interns in person. We think it just really helped with relationship building, letting them kind of see the office in advance, see the area where they could be living, and just kind of create that personal experience for them where they might not get to see the office until their very first day in May or June. They kind of get a sneak peek, and that way they're also more comfortable when they do come to the office for their very first day. They already know their way around. They might have made a friend or two, or they see a familiar face. It kind of helps too with like the first day jitters or just being comfortable being in a new city, a new place for a summer away from their support system.
We're at time, but Jasmine, I will kick it back to you. Megan and Michaela, I'll just say thank you, and to everyone that joined today, thanks for joining us, and hopefully you're able to take away something tactically throughout the discussion today. I'll speak for all of us and say if you have questions, reach out to us, on LinkedIn. Happy to answer anything. But thanks, y'all. Jasmine, I'll kick it to you.
Yes, thanks so much, Parker, and thanks to you, Megan and Michaela, for this amazing presentation today. And thank you to everyone who attended. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.
Bye, all.